Now, new figures have revealed a postcode lottery of police response times across the country, with some victims of burglaries and domestic abuse left waiting up to 13 hours for the police to attend.
Joining us now is Home Affairs editor at The Times. Glad to have him on. Matt Dathan, good morning to you, sir, and CEO of Refuge, Ellen Miller. Matt, let's start with you. Shocking revelations from this investigation. We've already talked this morning, and I understand about domestic violence. I also want to talk about the burglary side of this, but it is completely, unbelievably unacceptable. Going to cough. 13 hours, and then they probably don't turn up anyway. What have you found? What can you give us about this investigation, my friend?
Well, yeah, these are freedom of information requests, and only 28 of the 43 police forces replied to them. So we've got a majority, but there are some who didn't respond. They relate to grade 2 priority calls. So they are calls to the police which are deemed serious enough for the police to attend, but not urgent that there's an immediate threat to life. So they relate to crimes such as burglary and domestic incidents or missing people, and incidents where a suspect is being detained. So police really need to attend as soon as possible. And we're finding a complete patchwork, complete postcode lottery across the country. So if you live in Birmingham West, for example, you were waiting on average 13 and a half hours in 2022 for the police to attend these grade 2 calls. But if you were in Plymouth or Bristol, you're only waiting 37 minutes. And we must remember this is 2022 figures, and since then, the Home Office have made a big, and also the police leaders across the country, the National Police Chiefs Council has made a new pledge to attend every single burglary. They haven't actually set a time on that, but they have woken up to this problem and have made pledges. It's yet to be seen whether they will actually respond to that.
And Matt, can I quickly just ask, these grade 2 calls, are they burglaries in progress, or are these phone calls that are happening once someone has realised that their house has been broken into?
They could be both. So there'll be burglaries whether they are ongoing or they are ongoing burglaries, or they are burglaries that have happened and the suspect is
Matt, it's really interesting because you've obviously initiated this as the Home Affairs editor of The Times, and you're very calm. We're sat here. I mean, I'm so with Nick on this. This is completely, unbelievably unacceptable. You think about, people whose possessions, whose lifestyle is being, just somebody coming into your home. Then you think about women, we'll talk about that, being attacked. And how can you have confidence in your police force if this is what we're being given? You describe it as a postcode lottery. We want more and expect more and should get more from our police, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. And sadly, it's not surprising at all. I mean, yesterday I spent the day actually in Ealing with a private police force, a private detective firm, who the shops in the local area had lost confidence with the police. Police, when they turn up to shoplifting or burglary incidents in that area, they said they don't have the time and they're overstretched. And if there is a knife crime happening nearby, they're obviously going to prioritise that. So for the police, it's not necessarily that they don't care; it's that they have so many other priorities. And the police would argue that more sort of violent crime should be prioritised. That they just don't have the resources to spend detaining shoplifters. But some of the retailers I was talking to and saw yesterday said that they were shoplifted last week for £3,000 worth of goods. The police actually did arrive, but they said they weren't willing to prosecute because it would require to detain.
Before you bring Ellen in, I'm sorry. People will say there aren't enough resources. Yes, we do need more police men and women on the streets, but I think we have to take a long, hard look at the priorities of many, many police forces. Don't think it's good enough. Sorry.
Absolutely, Ellen. Just to bring you in on this, you're the CEO of Refuge. We know that women's trust in police is at an all-time low. You said 4 in 5 people who experience domestic abuse didn't report it to the police because they didn't feel able to. And now we're hearing that those who actually are able to call the police are having to wait up to 13 hours to get help.
Absolutely heartbreaking, isn't it? I mean, the thing about domestic abuse is it's not a static crime. It's very rare that it will be a one-off incident. So the threat remains. So for people who are in that situation, they will be terrified that the person may be released from prison. They may be coming back. They may have family members who are involved. So it's an absolutely terrifying thing hanging over your head. And those barriers are there in a way that they aren't if you experience some other kind of crimes. The consequences, if you have an abusive partner, of going to the police are potentially massive for you and for your family, and you are probably already very kind of depleted in your emotional, mental strength anyway. So how are we going to solve domestic abuse if we're not able to get safety and security and tackle the perpetrators?
Yeah. And Ellen, in your professional opinion, your professional advice, what would you say to people who were in a situation where they had called the police and were told there was going to be a long wait? What kind of things can they do to ensure their own safety, or at least attempt to?
Well, absolutely. Immediate safety, and every situation is going to be different. We run a national domestic abuse helpline. Obviously, people are very willing to, very welcome to get in touch with us and get our advice. But if you are in a situation where you are being let down, where you and your children are in immediate danger, we would urge people to make their own safety plans and get to a place of safety. It is not okay.
Completely great advice. If I can bring it back to Matt, this investigation, we talk about, you know, a postcode lottery. We talk about, you know, what crimes should be prioritised. We've talked about a lack of police. Were you shocked by what you found, and what do you think will happen? Do you think this will initiate any change? You're at pains to point out this is 2022, pal. Could be even worse in 2023.
Well, I'm not that shocked actually, because there's the dire state the policing has found itself in, and the government, you know, are arguing, and police forces are arguing, that they have now hired since 2022 that they have reached that target of recruiting 20,000 extra police officers. But I think what we're seeing is just I guess this, because overall crime is actually fallen since over the last decade. But what we're seeing is the number of crimes reported to police go up. So it basically, people are needing their police more, despite overall crime going down. And what is also really bad performance is the number of burglaries, for example, which end up being solved. The figures that were published last month showed that in the year to June, only about 4% of burglaries were actually solved. So what we're seeing is people just don't have any faith in the police either in actually tackling the problem. So I think what the police will say is that they've made this new pledge to attend the scene of every burglary. I think the next thing we'll have to see is when the figures are released, when we find the figures for the response times for 2023, is actually holding them to a standard of, yes, you've made this pledge to attend every burglary, but how quickly are you attending? Because if you're not attending that soon, you're not going to get the evidence, and then you're not going to solve the crime.
Can I read to you and Bella something? We did loads of comments all morning. Another Bella says, I had to call 999 a while back as around 10 teenagers were battering my door down late at night and making serious threats. I live on my own. The operator could clearly hear them. They assured me that they were on their way. They turned up 4 weeks later. That too because I rang them and initiated a complaint against them. How is anybody, a woman or a man who's being the victim of domestic violence, an old lady or somebody who's had their liberty, you know, that somebody's come through their window, how in the name of the law, just to sum up both of you, are we supposed to have any confidence anymore? Bella, let's start with you.
That's to Ellen.
Ellen, sorry, I called her Bella. Ellen, I mean, how can we have confidence?
Who else can we have confidence in? The police are there and they should be doing their job. Now, there are some great police officers out there.
I agree.
The standard is not high enough overall. We need women to be safe. 2 women on average are killed every week. I don't want it to be my family. I don't want it to be your family. The police can do better. They're doing better in some places. This needs to be done. It's a national threat.
And Matt, it's also really important, I think, to say to people that it's not worthless them trying, at least, to call the police. I think it's so important that you've covered this story. It's so important that we talk about this. But at the same time, I'm aware and conscious of the fact that we don't want to dissuade people from making that initial contact with the police, regardless of the wait time.
Matt, sorry, very quickly, your response to that, my friend.
Absolutely. We must remember that some police forces, as we've seen in this investigation in Plymouth and Bristol, they are attending very quickly. So we'll always call the police if you're in danger.
Yeah, lovely. Well, thank you very much to Matt Dathan and Ellen Miller. Thanks for joining us this morning.